Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everybody.
YouTube, and also
Today
Facebook.
we shall be looking at European contact with West Africa. Now, European powers knew about the history of West Africa before the 15th century through the writings of the Arab scholars who had visited the region. Now, remember, Africa came into contact with the Arab world before the Europeans. Europeans started coming in the 15th century. And when they came, the coastal regions became the first points of contact for the Europeans. Now, Europeans initially had vested interest in exploration of the coast of West Africa because of the availability of mineral resources. Initially, Europeans refused to sell firearms, guns, etc. to Africans because they feared that the weapons could be used against them. And that's when it's understood that those guns were used against them. For example, in the Gambia, there were a lot of resistance against the European infiltration into their territories. The likes of Musa Molo, Fodekawa Doumbouya, Fodeko Mosela, etc. And subsequently, we understood that there were some leaders, African traditional rulers who were exiled to different places. Later on, the Europeans shifted from trading in gold and ivory because Europeans came to Africa on key important areas. And to make it very short, commerce, Christianity, and civilization. And the last one is colonization. These were all the reasons for the coming of Europeans. But inshallah, we'll discuss them in details. Now, what happened is, they shifted their trade in gold and ivory to slaves. This was as a result of the shortage of labor in the American plantation, which was founded in 1492 by Christopher Columbus. And there were European colonies. We had the French colonies in America, British colony, Portuguese colony, and Spanish colonies. And each of these colonies were to be developed with slave labor. And it's Africa that they're supposed to get those slave labors. The coastal people in some West African states resisted the penetration into the interior part or the hinterland of the country because our people feared to be displaced as middlemen and suspected that their lands would be taken over by the Europeans, and we have seen that later on when the borders were demarcated. For example, in the Gambia in 1889, the border commission was established between the French and the British in order to demarcate the borders between Gambia and Senegal. And it was agreed in principles that the Gambia, if you look at the country, the most important physical feature that divides the Gambia into two equal halves was the river. And they agreed in principle that 10 kilometers on the south bank and 10 kilometers on the bank, which is 6 miles. Now, after some centuries of contact with Europeans, most of the West African coastlines were named after the available resources by the